Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about Xbox Series S today. Now I'm sure you've seen quite a lot of criticism and even hate when it comes to Xbox Series S on internet and social media lately. I would say especially last couple of days, like a week or so, where we've seen quite a lot of developers and journalists basically criticizing Xbox Series S for many things. I'm not going to even mention basically all these stupid claims from fanboys because, I'm not going to address that. I mean, it basically what I've noticed is that like everything is blamed on Xbox Series S lately sometimes, and that just goes too far. Like there was this developer like literally yesterday where they said that there's going to be an Xbox version of their game delayed because Xbox support doesn't really want to certify their game or something like that. It had nothing to do with hardware, right? They even said that Xbox Series S version runs fine, yet I've seen number of articles blaming Xbox Series S limitations for that particular game. I forgot the name. I will link the article in the description below so you can check it out. And articles were claiming that it's all Xbox Series S fault. So basically some people just go too far with that hate and everything. I mean, valid criticism, sure, why not? And that's what we're going to talk about. And that's what I really want to focus today because, we see more and more developers criticizing Xbox Series S limitations and stuff. And, generally speaking, I've seen people saying that, Xbox Series S was a mistake and everything. And it's easy to say it right now, I guess, because in my opinion, the idea behind this console was actually a good one, right? I mean, cheaper, less powerful, but still next-gen console. That would be an offering for people that don't necessarily want to spend like $500 or even $600 right now for console and that kind of stuff. Digital only, no problem there, right? The problem, I think, is the execution, right? So the idea was great. I would even say maybe not great, but kind of interesting. But execution wasn't really that great. So the problem I see, and that's what we see from coming from developers, is that unfortunately the optimization process for this console, and for the most part, it has to do with memory limitations, is just basically very difficult, right? So to make a game to work on Xbox Series S just basically cost a lot of these developers not only money but time. I mean, time is money, right? So basically when you are a big developer, because this is an interesting thing, right? Like most big publishers, developers, they don't really complain about Xbox Series S, right? Like you don't see Activision complaining about it. I mean, to be honest with you, you see Call of Duty running on Xbox Series S at 120 frames per second, but then you see these smaller developers complaining about it. Why? Because they don't have as big of a budget and and time, right? I mean, they want to do things as quickly as possible, and basically, I guess the differences between Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 are not really that great. So basically, if you make that game to run on Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, it will run pretty much fine on the other console, right? With Xbox Series S, you have to, as a developer, have to spend more time optimizing, right? Like, playing with settings and testing if everything works fine. It just takes time, and obviously optimization process is not an easy process. I mean, hell, even when it comes to Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, we've seen some poorly optimized games because sometimes these developers are trying to push the graphics or performance or whatever, ray tracing, and unfortunately, there's some limits to it. Engines, unfortunately, doesn't really help. But, it is what it is, guys. And I understand that developers are not really happy with that console because for them it's extra work, extra money they have to spend. And I think that Microsoft did get the message because the latest rumors suggest that they will not produce another console like that, in a sense that there won't be two SKUs, in a sense that like more powerful and less powerful console. I mean, there's still talk about that handheld, but it's supposed to be something totally different. I mean, different, of course, because it's going to be a handheld, but also kind of separate, right? Because at first I thought that maybe it's going to be a two SKU kind of approach, but that may not be the case, and they may basically just release a PC-like handheld, and you play with settings basically, right? But to be honest with you, sounds like Xbox. I mean, I wanted to say Xbox Series Next. I mean, next Xbox is going to be that, like PC, more powerful and more open, right? It's just, obviously with the console-like UI and everything, but there's going to be more stuff you will be able to do on that console, right? So, but at the end of the day, listen, Xbox Series S is not really that bad of a console, right? I mean, it's more work for developers, and they will complain about it. I mean, we see that more and more because these games becoming more and more demanding, and it's more and more difficult to actually push that next-gen game on that console. But I guess, these developers may... I mean, and I think I know why they're complaining, because lately there's been more and more articles, and I'm not sure if that was suggested by some of the developers, and it's kind of like a suggestion for Microsoft to kind of drop the how do they call it, the mandate to make the game for both Xbox Series S and X. And there's been some suggestions like that from developers. If you dropped the requirement to support Xbox Series S, and we would be more than happy to release that game for Xbox Series X. But then, I mean, Microsoft cannot really do that because they promised that this is the same family of consoles, right? That would just not look good, right? I mean, it's one thing to allow for a worse version on that Xbox Series S console, like in a sense that it may be locked to 30 frames per second, lower resolution, worse graphics, but it's still the same game, if you know what I mean, right? So Microsoft will not allow for that not parity, because parity is different. It's different, but they will not allow for a game to be released for Xbox Series X and not S, if you know what I mean, right? It is what it is, and I mean, developers can complain all they want, but that's not really going to change. That would be very, very weird. I mean, cutting out some features, well, we've seen that with Baldur's Gate, for example, where they got rid of, was it co-op, I think? But other than that, the game needs to be released on that console, right? I mean, the good news for developers, I guess, if the rumors are true, is that, that kind of requirement to release games on Xbox Series S is going to be only up until 2026, I guess. So it's not really that much time, because, as far as, if the rumors are true, next Xbox is going to release around 2026. So yeah, that's going to be a start of the new generation. So there won't be any mandate to release a game, their games for Xbox Series S anymore, right? So we'll see how that goes. But I understand developers, right, and I understand their complaints about it. But at the end of the day, when you see developers like CD Projekt Red or Activision, Ubisoft games and stuff, there's so many games that run great on Xbox Series S, and it's doable. It's just some developers I mean, they don't have budget, they don't have skills sometimes, let's face it, sometimes that happens as well. And it's not necessarily a criticism of, developers. I mean, you may be a good programmer and know how to program and how to optimize for PlayStation or PC, but not necessarily Xbox. It's an extra skill. I mean, that's why these big publishers, they don't have a problem with Xbox Series S, because they've got these different teams with expertise on these boxes, right? So the only complaint I would have really is that maybe towards Xbox, maybe the Xbox should help more these developers. I don't know whether they've got any tools to do that. Lately we've seen that they even there's some communication issues with some indie developers. So I think that there's certain things that should be fixed on the Xbox side. Communication with developers. I'm sure that they've got great communication, great they help big developers, but what about the small ones, right? They should care more about them as well, in my opinion. But hey, here we are. Really, when it comes to buying an Xbox Series S, I mean, why should you care? You are not a developer, you just play games, right? Yes, you will have, obviously, games that running at lower resolution or lower frame rate, but that's what this console is all about. It's cheaper. So like I said, the idea for Xbox Series S, releasing Xbox Series S, wasn't really that bad. It's just execution. So specs, how Xbox work with developers, how do they help them, how do they support them. I mean, that needs fixing, and whether that's going to change next generation, we'll see. We'll have to wait and see, but I doubt it, because Xbox or Microsoft as a company is always like, okay, here's the tools and you do that, do whatever you do with that, right? Whatever you want to do with that. While PlayStation is more like hands-on. Okay, let's work on that and that kind of stuff, right? So, I mean, that's the way Microsoft operates, right? So I don't think much is going to change in terms of how Microsoft approaches developer, but we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.